Hi everyone, this is Celine from Blue Calla Patterns. In this video series, we'll be working on the Lavender Tote. The Lavender Tote can be used as a cosmetic tote, or you can use laminated cotton and turn it into a lunch bag if you prefer. Before you start, you'll want to print out the pattern and read through the entire document. Note that the pattern does provide two different sizes, a small size and a large size. Depending on which size you want to make, you can print out the appropriate pattern pieces. For the small size, these are found on pages 18 through 22. If you are doing the large size, you'll want to print out pattern pieces from pages 23 through 29. Now, between the two sizes, you do have some pattern pieces that are the same and some that are slightly different. For both sizes, you'll need bottom B and bottom Peltex. You'll need, for both sizes, zipper panel C, side panel D, flap A, and flap firm interfacing. Now, that's for both sizes. Now the one difference is for the front and the back panel at the bottom, not on the curved portion on the top of the bag, but at the bottom. For the large size, you're going to need 3 different pattern pieces for that. For the small size, sorry, I got these mixed up. For the small size, you're going to need 1 pattern piece, and that's main panel H. Large size, you need lower main panel F, accent strip E, and lining panel G. So if you're making the small size, you're going to use main panel H, and you're going to cut those front and back panels in both your exterior fabric and your lining fabric. If you're making the large size, you use lining panel G to cut out 2 lining pieces. Those will be the front and the back panel on the lining side of your bag, on the interior. And for the exterior, for the large size, you're going to need 2 accent strip E, and you can use a coordinating fabric for this. And you'll need 2 exterior pieces of lower main panel F. And I'm going to show you this in the interfacing section, but you're going to assemble these and interface them together. Before starting, you'll want to gather your supplies. This bag doesn't really need any complicated hardware. It's pretty simple. You're going to need your exterior fabric. I'm going to be using this print. Your lining fabric. I will be using this print for my lining fabric. And I'm going to use this coordinating fabric for the handle and the bottom and the accent strip. I am going to be making the large size so that I can show you the assembly of those exterior panels. So this was my accent fabric for the exterior. You're going to need 2 number 3 dress zippers. If you're making the large size, you need 2 9-inch zippers. Unfortunately, I didn't have 9-inch in the color that I wanted, so I'm using 10-inch zippers, and I'll be cutting those down a bit. If you're making the small size, you're going to need 2 8-inch zippers. You're also going to need 1 magnetic snap just for your flap closure. And you're going to also need some piping. If you're making the large size, you'll need 42 inches of piping. If you're making the small size, you'll need 38 inches of piping. I'm not making my own for this bag. I'm going to use a packaged piping. I really like this piping because I don't like a big cord, and this has a nice size. And also the tape portion is exactly 3/8 of an inch, and that's my typical seam allowance in my patterns, so it works out perfectly. Now I'm going to cut all of my fabric pieces, and I'm also going to cut out my fusible woven interfacing, my foam interfacing, my fusible fleece, Peltex, and stiff stuff. So there are 5 different kinds of interfacing. I know it seems overwhelming, but we actually need very small amounts of each one, and they all serve a specific purpose for this bag, which I'll explain when I have the pieces interfaced. Okay, so I have all of my pieces cut. I'm going to go through them very quickly. This is my handle piece. It's interfaced already. So all of the cotton pieces already have the fusible woven interfacing fused to the wrong side of all the pieces. So this is your handle piece. For the large size, it's 16 inches long, and for the small size, your handle is only 15 inches long, but they are both 2 inches wide. Here I have my flap A and my flap interfacing pieces. So I have my exterior piece from flap A, my lining piece from flap A. Now, one thing to note for this piece is if you're using a directional print, you will want to cut it so that it's facing in this direction. This would be the top side of your print. So I don't have anything here. This is a directional print, so you would want the print to go in this direction so that when you open your bag, your print isn't upside down. And to this piece, I have my fusible woven interfacing and I have my fleece. And then I have one piece of flap firm interfacing, which I cut out of stiff stuff interfacing. And I do get asked quite often what this product looks like. And it looks very similar to Peltex, except that it's thinner and less dense. So I'll show you. This is my Peltex piece that I'll be using for the bottom. So you'll see that this is, it's denser and it's slightly thicker. And I'm going to show you, this is the label here. It's a product by Lazy Girl Designs. And I like this product because I find it's perfect for the flap on this pattern. You can crumple it right up and then it smooths out. It's a good product. Okay, so that's my flap pieces, and the other flap pieces are your zipper panel C pieces. I have 2 lining pieces and 2 exterior pieces interfaced. And then for the exterior pieces, I also have matching foam interfacing pieces. And I'm going to show you all the pieces that you need to baste your foam to in a little bit. For your bottom B piece and your bottom Peltex. So this is my bottom Peltex piece. And then I have my exterior piece, my lining piece, and then I have a piece of foam interfacing. And I'm going to show you how to interface this shortly. And then I have, so this is where we need to do a little bit of assembly before adding our foam interfacing. I have 2 accent strip pieces and 2 lower main panel F. So for these, you're only cutting exterior pieces and interfacing them. And then the foam interfacing for these pieces, so we're going to be sewing these together next. You cut the foam interfacing from your lining panel G piece. You don't cut a piece from here and here, because it would have made, at the seam, it would have made it too thick. So I will show you how to assemble and interface these shortly. From your lining panel G, it's really simple. You need 2 lining fabric pieces and you want them to be interfaced. And then side panel D, you want 2 lining pieces interfaced, 2 exterior pieces. interfaced, and then 2 foam interfacing pieces. Now for the second time, this is the second time I've tried to take this video, and the second time that I forget to also mention that you need to cut out these zipper pull tabs, and they are 2 inches wide by 3 inches high, and you're going to need 2 of them. I'm going to use the same fabric as my accent strip fabric and also the bottom of my bag. And you don't need it to interface these pieces, you just need to cut out your exterior fabric. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to glue the bottom Peltex piece to our bottom B foam interfacing. And you can glue it with fabric glue. I usually use Fabri-Tac, but for this bag I'm just going to use some double-sided tape. Now you could also glue this to the fabric, but I find it's a bit less forgiving. You can sort of see where it's been glued down. So that's why I am actually gluing it to the foam interfacing. And then here. So you're going to center it, and you should have half inch of space between the edge of your Peltex and the edge of your foam interfacing. And then you just take your, I'm actually going to do it this way with my Peltex on the bottom. Doesn't really matter, but this is how I prefer to do it. And then I'm just going to clip my exterior fabric to the foam. Now you're also going to need to clip the foam interfacing to all of your exterior pieces. I won't make you watch me do that because that is incredibly boring. Okay, so any matching piece of foam interfacing, you could go ahead and clip those together. And the only other thing that we need to prepare before we can finish our foam interfacing is you need to assemble your here, these, I'll show you the pattern pieces. So the pieces that you cut from your lower main panel F and your accent strip E, and pick whatever's going to be your top edge. This is a strange print that doesn't really have a particular direction, and I'm just going to clip my accent strip right side together at the top edge of the lower main panel F piece. And I'm going to take this over to my machine. I'm going to sew them together with 3/8 seam allowance along this top edge. And then I'm going to press the seam allowance open, and then I'm going to top stitch along the seam allowance along both sides of the seam. Okay, so I've now assembled one of my accent strip and lower main panel pieces. And I pressed the seam allowance open, and then I top stitched on both sides of the seam. And then I'll just take one of the foam pieces that I cut from my lining panel G piece, and I'll just clip this to the foam. I won't show you clipping the entire piece. And then you're going to do the same thing for the other set of pieces. Okay, so I have all of my exterior pieces clipped to their matching foam interfacing pieces. And I'm just going to take all of my pieces over to my zigzag machine, and I'm going to base the foam to the exterior pieces with a zigzag stitch. I always use a zigzag stitch because it'll compress the foam in the seam allowance and make it a little bit less bulky. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. and then we can continue to the assembly of our bag.